So we are doing this fascinating mimer that I was so blown away with last week that like, oh my gosh, it's my father's yard site. Oh my gosh, like everything here is talking about my father. So it was unbelievable. And the Rebbe spoke about when Sukkot first begins. We have this amazing mitzvah called going into a sukkah. And the essence achdus, the one organism achdus of a sukkah. And then the next morning, we begin I guess, even higher level achdus of all the separate pieces that come together, which becomes the Arba Minim, the lulav, the esrog, the dasma, and the revos. And then, based on that energy, we proceed all the way to what we would call the tefillos of Musaf, or in the times of the Beis Hamikdash, the karbanos of Sukkot. We're highlighting the Shivim Parim, the 70 bulls, because the total of all the numbers, as the numbers decreased, 13, 12, all those numbers became a total of 70 animals, 70 bulls, that represented the Goyim. When we daven Musaf, we do exactly what they did in the Beis Hamikdash by offering their karbanos. We bring refinement to the Goyim. And that concept opened up a major theme of this mimer. Rebbe is saying Goyim are hugely important. You have a world, you have 8 billion mankind, and you want to reach them. And we're like, oh, we're putting something else on our list, please. But remember, this is in Lamed Tes. The Rebbe, if you want to call it officially, begins the mitzvah of Sheva Mitzvahs in Membeis in 1982, the fall of 82. This is Lamed Tes. So we're here 3 years earlier. But the Rebbe is already pushing. They're so important. Because the whole reason for creation is a dir b'sachtainim. Who's making that dira? You? You're not a tachton. You're a Jew. Jews aren't tachton. Jews are incognito, agents in disguise. You look like the world. You might believe you're the world. You're not. So even when Jews completely recognize Hashem, it's not a tachton recognizing Hashem because we're not tachton. We're elyon. We're a chelik elokim mamish. With a few appendages like a body, an animal soul, and evil inclination. But in essence, we're a chelik elokim mamish. But when you reach a goy, when you reach a Gentile, when a non-Jew recognizes Hashem, that's a tachton. That's a dira b'sachton. In the dwelling place of this guy's head and heart, you have revealed godliness. That's creating Mashiach. So the Rebbe said it's really important. It's a really, really, really important thing to do. And from Sukkot, we have a tremendous koyach to do it. Because again, going back to somehow all the avodas of Sukkot, the Sukkah and the Lulav and Esrog, that's segueing in for us to be able to say these tefillos of Musaf to day by day by day talk about the Parim, which becomes a total of these 70 bulls, which causes spiritually, just by our tefillos, of course we're also going to speak about our avodah, don't worry, but just by our tefillos, it's causing a refinement in the goyim. So that's like a very brief overview of what we've done so far. Does anyone have any questions or reflections or any cool stories of anything they did with goyim inspired by this over the past week? I'm sure it happened. You might have forgotten. I'm sure it happened. I was actually really affected by something I shared in the mimer. It's a wonderful thing to have to teach because you get to learn. So if you remember, I didn't even overview this now, but the Rebbe bringing out this point of the impact on the goy based on this pasuk that the Rebbe is going to keep referencing throughout this mimer. Baruch tiyeh mikol ha'amim. You are blessed from all the nations, that the nations look at you and they bless God, and we say Amen, and we're drawing down all of this high godly energy. So the Rebbe connected this to a story with the Rebbe Maharash, because this mimer is from a Fabranian of the Rebbe Maharash's Histalkus, Yugimel Tishrei, and he said it's a famous story that the Rebbe Maharash used to take a certain road every day in his travelings, and one day they took a different road, and all the Ukrainian peasants who never saw him before because he never goes on that road, they see the godliness, the majesty, the grandeur of the Rebbe Maharash, and they bow. They prostrate themselves. These goyim, these pashta, normally anti-Semite, think of those days, Catholicism, the blood, all that stuff. And yet, despite all that, they saw the Rebbe Maharash and they prostrated themselves. And when the Hasidim said, what happened? The Rebbe Maharash said, who do you think it's talking about when it says Baruch Tiyeh Mikol Ha'amim? The Rebbe said, when we say a Maisa, it draws out the power of the Maisa. That was very powerful to me. We all, I'm sure, share, love to listen to, love to tell stories of tzaddikim, stories of rabbeim, chassidish Maisim. And it's amazing the point that I was making is that when the Maisa happened, that koyach of a Jew bringing goyim to recognize Hashem was released in the world. When we say the story, it's re-released. I'll actually bring in something that I heard last week in connection to my father's yard site, just bring out this point of the power of a story. So we had a very impromptu Zoom on Friday, which was my father's 30th yard site with my siblings and many of the grandchildren. It was very beautiful. And we're all sharing. And there's a famous dollars encounter where the Rebbe is asking my sister, who was about 16 at the time, and my father was deathly ill in ICU. He was there for a month, unconscious. And the Rebbe asked my sister about my father, who was a very high-level scientist for the government. Is he doing his work? What's happening with his work, with his invention? My sister, who didn't know what to say, I mean, her father's in ICU. What do you mean work? He's not even conscious. She said, his workers are doing it for him. Something like that.
Yeah.
And the Rebbe responded and said he has to do his work. Whatever. It went back and forth. He has to do his work. The Rebbe gave her a gorgeous smile. You don't see the Rebbe smile. You see my sister smiling back. So, obviously the Rebbe gave her this gorgeous smile. And then it's an amazing thing because you mamish see how like the Rebbe for sure pulled my father from the opposite of life to life, saying he's needed. He got to do his work. He's got to go do his work. He needs to do his inventions. God can't take him yet. So it's a very beautiful clip, and Jem re-releases it like every 3 years, by their Gem videos. I always know because people text me, oh my gosh, this is your father, this is your sister. It's like every 3 years I get to hear it again. My brother said the first time they released it, I don't know, I think he said like 2016 or something. And my brother was out of work. My brother works in computers, which means every few years he gets out of work because whatever company he's working for gets sold by another company. There's a sale, there's a merge, they lose all the employees, whatever. Unfortunately, one of the job hazards of that market. So my brother was out of work. He was looking for work for a long time. He couldn't find work. That Motzi Shabbos, for the first time, Jem put out this video, and they entitled it "Back to Work" because the Rebbe was telling my sister he has to get back to work. He has to work on his invention. They didn't say like back to life. They said back to work. And my brother said, and that week he found a job. And it just so resonated because just the night before we had been discussing this, that when we say a story, a maisa with a tzaddik, Maisim of the Rebbe, all of the beautiful miracle stories and Hasidic Maisim that we know and we tell, we can be very intentful, I guess, of the energies we're looking for, because these stories really have a koyach. Listening to the story, telling the story, sharing the story, it really has an amazing koyach. So that's part of the review of what we did last week. So continuing up to Ois Vav, Rebbe says that obviously this avoida to transform 8 billion mankind, to take the world and make them people that recognize Hashem, actually through us, through looking at us, we are the inspiration for the Goyim to recognize Hashem. It's a pretty big burden. Not burden. It's a pretty big responsibility we carry. Because what's supposed to happen literally is that the guy looks at us and he's like, wow, you're special. Oh, you're a Jew. Oh, you're connected to God. Wow. Through us, he sees, he senses, he recognizes, he thinks about God. That's the process. This is primarily through the avodah we do on Sukkot, meaning this is a Sukkot mimer. What we're doing on Sukkot is the catalyst to have the energy to do this on Daled Menachem Av. And tonight, Hey Menachem Av and the Yahrzeit of the Arizal HaChai, so it's a really special night to learn Chassidus, we can do it tonight, and we should do it tonight, and hopefully we are doing it tonight, or today, or tomorrow, but the Koyach started from Sukkot. Why? Well, because as we already learned in the Mimer, though if you forgot, we forgive you, as we happily have a once-a-week class, that it says in the Gemara that on Rosh Hashanah, when we're not sure who's going to be victorious, our side or the Goyim side, which means there's a little bit of friction here, because either if we win, they lose. If they win, we lose. But as when we see the Yidden, the Jews walking with their lulav and esrog, that's their victory walk. So that shows, that's the sign we won. So on Rosh Hashanah, we already are looking 2 weeks ahead and seeing ourselves marching with our lulavs and esrog. You don't have to say on the streets of Manhattan that we do that too to conquer the world, but even simply walking on the streets of West Rogers Park with our lulav and esrog, we won. So what do we see from this? We see a number. First of all, we see that all of this impact of the Goyim has something to do with lulav and esrog. Yeah, we know that, and we're still going to put that on the side because we don't know yet exactly that detail. We also see something else. We see that there's a meaning on Rosh Hashanah, there's two sides. Who's gonna win? Are we gonna win? Are the Goyim gonna win? That means there's an opposition here between us and at least some of the Goyim. If we win, they lose. If they win, we lose. So the Rebbe says that's a critical point. Because when we are saying that you will be victorious, that you will bring the world to recognize Hashem, we literally mean the entire world. The pasuk says, as we've quoted many times, the same pasuk, it's simple, because one pasuk we keep saying, Baruch Tia mikol ha'am. You will be blessed from all of the nations. That means, the Rebbe says, all of the nations are going to be blessing you. Well, some of them don't seem to be our friends now, especially a few that live, well, all over the world, actually. They don't seem to be so much our friends. The Rebbe says, Daiganish. They're going to be part of the group that, as on Sukkot we see, they say Hallel to Hashem. Remember, this all connects to Sukkot. And every day we're saying this Hallel. And in the Hallel we say, Hallelu es Hashem kol goyim, shabchuhu kol ha'umim. Why? Ki gavar aleinu chas. Simple meaning of the words. All the nations will praise Hashem because they see how much kindness Hashem showers on us. When they see we are the chosen people, we are special, we are different in a positive way, they're like, wow, God, you are pouring kindness on this Jewish nation. On your nation, we recognize you. So in the Goyim, see the kindness we receive that brings the Goy to recognize Hashem, that brings the Goy to praise Hashem. And the Rebbe says these Goyim could start out as the enemies. You keep doing yours, the Goyim will be turned over. Which means, bring it down to today, because this whole mimer seems to be written for today. So there probably were people in the world that when the president of Iran suddenly has this weird thing of a helicopter crash, the other two helicopters made it. The president's helicopter didn't make it. There were probably some Goyim in the world that said, that's hand of God. That's hand of God. That's Iran. That's that president. He's the one that authorized some 400 missiles to be showered on Israel. Wow, there's a God. Looking at the kindness Hashem puts on us, the Goy come to recognition of Hashem. And some people maybe didn't get it then, but when Israel managed to kill the number 2 man of all of Hezbollah, who was so hidden that he would never use any technology, that no one should know where he is, and officially no one did know where he was, including most of Hezbollah, and yet Israel, no problem. It's like they make it look so easy, right? Hashem makes it look so easy. They just send their bomber, they go exactly to his address, they know exactly his address, boom, gone. America put out a $5 million, price on his head. It didn't get them anything. Israel just, we want to knock him off. He killed 12 Druzy kids. Yeah, it's a good idea. Let's knock him off. No problem. How many Goyim said, wow, that's God. That's not normal. That makes no sense. And within 12 hours, somehow, none of us know the story, so every story is a different story depending on which story you happen to read today. That will change anyway by tomorrow. But somehow, in some mysterious way, the head of Hamas just gone. How many Goyim are like, wow, that's God. God pouring his kindness on the Jews, it brings them to recognize Hashem. So the ones that start off and see that so clearly are obviously not our opposition. The Rebbe says even the opposition will come to see it. Now the Rebbe starts talking a bit about this idea of the opposition, and we could obviously decontextualize what the Rebbe is saying to like a lot of other areas of our life. We have to view this as practical. The Rebbe said, okay, I gave you a philosophical concept. The philosophical concept was all the nations will praise Hashem, will thank Hashem for the kindness to you. Well, obviously, we know a lot of the nations don't love us now, but the verse says all, Halus Hashem kol goyim, shabchuhu kol ha'umim, baruch tia mikol ha'amim. So we only have to say, the only option is that all those that don't seem to love us so much, all of our opponents will become adherents. All of the ones that think they hate us, they'll all recognize the truth and love us. And through loving us, they'll be so happy that Hashem is giving us so much, and Hallel is Hashem, they'll do Hallel, they'll praise Hashem, and this all comes from Sukkot. That's a theological concept, right? It's a piece of a mimer. Rebbe says, from this, we should all take a practical hayra'ah. Torah milashon hayra'ah is something to teach us something in our lives. So what's the hayra'ah? That sometimes, probably very, very, very rarely, we encounter opposition. Now, in the haskalah of the mimer, the opposition means the non-Jew who's opposing Jew and God. In the Hayra'ah of the mimer, the Rebbe seems to be broadening it to any opposition. We encounter opposition. We have a goal, we have a good goal, we have a godly goal, and it's not going. And we encounter a lot of obstacles to get. Maybe we want to give our kids a good chinuch, and all these things are barriers in the road. Maybe we're trying to achieve something in our own avodah. We're trying to get ourselves to daven or to learn or to say tehillim, and like everything is preventing us. Maybe we're trying to do a type of shlichus with our neighbors or our friends or our colleagues, and it's not going. We make a shir and no one shows up. Hashem, I'm willing, but nobody else is willing. So the Rebbe says, just like we're saying that every minaged in the world every one of those 8 billion ultimately will turn around and be our supporters. That's true for every opposition we encounter. And what's the Haira in that? The Haira in that is take strength and don't fall apart. You have a goal, you have a good goal, you have a goal that you know Hashem would approve of. Keep believing in it. Keep working toward it. Don't get weak. Don't get discouraged. Don't lose sight of the goal. Don't change the goal. Stick with the goal. You might have to change your strategies, but keep with the goal, because every opposition will turn around and be a positive, be an adherent, be a pro. Everyone against us will be for us. Just give it time. And the Rebbe said what that means is every force opposing you in its core is for you. Meaning, just like that non-Jew who's waving his, river to the sea flag, really in his core, he's for you. He just doesn't know it yet. And that's why you will be able to turn him around, as we will discuss, and what will come out is his truth, and he'll be for you. So the Rebbe says the same thing is true with anything in your life. Anything in your life that seemingly is an opposition to the road you know you need to walk, don't believe the opposition. It's all for you. Hashem is designing every one of those oppositions as a ladder for you, scaffolding for your growth, for your development, for your good. Like sometimes something doesn't work out, but I want this goal and this didn't work out. And it's like Hashem said, yeah, I didn't let that work out because that's a much better option. You're going to get the goal. You're going to get even better than you thought. I was thinking of my father when I was learning this mimer last week. I didn't get to this point in the mimer. And did I tell you last week about my father and how he got to yeshiva through his cooking class? I think I mentioned. Yeah, I did, right? Yeah. So I was thinking of that as like such an example of this concept. I mean, there are hundreds of examples of this concept, but I was thinking of my father, so it popped in my head that here's my father. He wants to go to yeshiva. He says, no, you're a young boy. You can't go away. And then he's stuck in a public school. Well, there is no from school in Chicago. Sorry. And then he's stuck in a cooking class where they're telling him he has to eat the not kosher. And it's all a plot of Hashem to get him to that yeshiva. So you have your goal. And it seems like there's all these barriers. You want to be from, well, we're forcing you to be in this cooking class, let alone we're not letting you to yeshiva. No, the opposition is part of the support team. That force that seemingly is blocking you from your goal of being an Eved Hashem, of serving Hashem, of being a religious Jew, it's the catalyst that's going to get you to yeshiva. Just wait and watch Hashem do his thing. And it's true for all the opposition in our life. It's always part of what ultimately is for our good. Now, of course, how we call our good might not be how Hashem calls our good, but it's all part of our good. And sometimes the our good might be really creating a challenge. But the Rebbe says that's part of our good, because overcoming that challenge, boy, is that valuable. Boy, is that a powerful light. Boy, is that drawing down the brachos you need. The Rebbe says our general avodah is avodas habirurim, refinement, extracting the sparks. We know Kabbalistically that we had this shattering of the vessels of the dimension of Tohu, and from then till now we've been picking up the sparks. And when the Jews left Mitzrayim, Erev Rav Alu Itam, they extracted 210 sparks, and there's only like I think 86, right? I don't know if I'm getting confused with my numbers. A very small amount. I think 86 Gematria Elokim, but maybe I'm crossing wires with something else. A very small amount that we worked on for thousands of years. And of course, the Rebbe told us in Tafshin Aleph and Tafshin Beis that all the sparks were refined. They were all extracted. So we're, I guess, already on the messianic avodah, not birur nitzutz, not birur, but yichud. But that's the normal avodah. The normal avodah is birur. Maybe now our normal avodah is yichud, fusion of divine energies. But then there's an extra special avodah that none of us are looking for. It's called a nisayon. A nisayon means a test. Yeah, we know. What's a test? How does Chassidus define a test? Well, a test is that wonderful situation none of us want, because it's a situation where all of my operative skills are not good enough. Everything I've developed in my love of Hashem and fear of Hashem and all my knowledge of Chassidus and all my intellectual skills, none of them work. The test is too big for my abilities. That's why it's called a test. If it wasn't too big for my abilities, it's not a test. It's a test because it challenges me to push me to a place where I'm not normally at. And the Rebbe says, the menage, that opposition, seemingly the enemy that's making you miserable and blocking you from attaining your goal, could be taking a situation that would be normative, birur nitzutzos, doing your thing as a Jew, and upping the grade of it to a nisayon, to something that is hugely challenging. Well, why is that might help? because you're going to pass, the Rebbe says. And the Nisayon draws down such energy, such brachos, such power, such a catalyst to get us where we need to go in this world. So is the opposition my friend? The Rebbe says it is. It's helping you. It's helping you perhaps. Like, imagine if you really thought you're supposed to be doing X and like X fell apart or X was taken away from you or X was destroyed and you're so devastated. Hashem said, I love you. I want to give you something better than X. X was good. It was a good goal. I want to give you something better. I'm giving you Y. Y is so much better on every level. But the only way I could ever give you Y is if I took away X. Because if you had X, you'd never move to Y. So that's painful. That's really painful. But if we understand, there's no menaged in the world. There's nothing that really opposes us. So everything that seems to be opposing us, we reframe as Hashem's taking away X because he wants to give me something even better. He wants to give me Y. He's not giving me what I'm asking for. He's giving me something better. He's not giving me my vision. He's giving me something better. He's giving his vision. So the Rebbe is presenting that as like, again, this was like the practical application of what we're discussing here. We're discussing every single guy in the world, including all the haters. Ultimately, they all love you. They all will love you. They'll all show their love for you. And the Rebbe is saying, apply that to your life. And understand that every situation in your life which seems to oppose the good and the goal and where you want to achieve, no such thing. Maybe it's making an asayon. That's good, that's wonderful, that's awesome, the Rebbe is saying. You're getting to draw down so much godliness. Or maybe it's going to be part of the story, like, my father in the cooking class. You think this is blocking the goal? This is going to get you to the goal. Or maybe it's removing the goal you think to give you an even better achievement. But looking at our life through the eyes of this Sikha, every menaged is part of the support team. So that was Ois Vav. Any thoughts on that? Anyone has seen that in their life personally? You don't have to share the details, but anyone has seen that concept that the menaged actually was not or is not? The opponent is actually part of something that propels us to something better than we were originally planning? Well, I definitely think about that a lot. I definitely do. I'm sure we all have our stories. I'm sure we all have, because we all definitely have opposition in various ways. And it's a good way to frame and understand that Hashem, who's all-knowing and all-loving and all-powerful, would allow us to have all this opposition. When all we're trying to do is be a good Jew in this world. I know that's what you're trying. And this Hisnagdus is part of that good process.
It's not exactly, it's just, that's the thought that pops into my mind. But it's in my context. When I see, it's not a menaged chas v'chalila, but when, like, let's say a special tchuna, a special character. It's not really a tchuna. It's more like a mida, special mida that is hard for me to do within myself. I see, and let's say I didn't acknowledge it. Let's say I avoided it, or I let it be as it is without really working on it. So the menaged, the opposition will come back in another way to make me a better person, to make me work on myself. I'll see it in one of my children, and that will make me have to work on myself to get better. So it's not, so menaged is not necessarily, it doesn't have to be like, for me, it can be even one aspect of me,
Absolutely. No, that's a perfect example. That is an exact example. The menaged is, I would say the menaged, in taking what you said in the context of what the Rebbe is saying here, the menaged is whatever the storyline is that forces you to work on yourself.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's absolutely 100%. That's exactly what the Rebbe is saying. It looks like, oof, why do I have to have kids that are just like me in all those ways? What about my nice ways? How come none of my kids got that? We look at our kids and like, I don't understand. Where were you hatched? Why don't you have any of my good and all the stuff that couldn't possibly be my bad, could it? And yeah, Hashem is doing that for their journey and definitely for ours. Definitely. Zion. We love this idea. We're going to transform those 8 billion haters, or maybe not 8 billion, maybe 4 billion haters. And we're going to make them all our ohadim, all our fans. How are we going to do this? So the Rebbe says, It's a spiritual journey. And the spiritual journey, again, let's go back to the core when this happens. The core is, of course, by Sukkot, we said. We do this Avodah on Sukkot foundationally, and then the energy continues throughout the year. The spiritual energy to transform the Menaged, going back to the Menaged, not as we were applying it. The second half of Ois Vav was us applying it to all the hisnagdus in our life, to all the oppositions, whatever they may be, whatever colors they take. Now we're going back to the original idea in the Mimer, which is the non-Jew, the Gentile, the Goy. The Rambam says you are going to transform him by a gilui of your Yechida. You're going to reveal your Yechida, and that will change him. Now, why is my Yechida changing him? So Rebbe gives two reasons why. Rebbe says, first of all, your Yechida, by definition, is that part of your soul higher than expression, higher than Giloi. Right? I mean, it's not your nefesh in your liver or your ruach in your right side of your heart or your neshama in your brain. It's up there. It's the highest level. I mean, you bring it down like if a person dies, Al Kiddush Hashem or something like that. Rosh Chodesh, because Yechid is the Mashiach part of the soul, and Rosh Chodesh is the Mashiach day of the month. Yom Kippur Ne'ilah, an act of tremendous self-sacrifice. Otherwise, it doesn't seem like something I really channel and utilize. True. And that's the point. Why do we want to access and reveal that which is higher than revelation? Because what I want to do is get to the Goy's spiritual energy. And we're like, spiritual energy of a Goy? What are we talking about here? Goyim are regular Goy's Klippas Timeus. But if there wasn't godliness in that Klippa, it wouldn't be. Everything in the world is God. If it didn't have the God energy, it wouldn't be. That's the building block of all matter is God. So yes, obviously, Chasidim Musa'elam, their Nefesh HaBahaim is Klippas Noiga. But for a regular non-Jew, body and soul, Klippas Timeus, Klippas Timeus. But within Klippas Timeus, there's a nitzutz. There's a spark of godliness. That's what's vivifying all that klipa. So you want to take this person who's opposing you, who thinks he hates you, and uncover that he really loves you. How in the world do you get such, one of those protesters to understand they really love you? By accessing their godliness, by uncovering the godliness in them. And since the godliness in them, by definition, cannot be accessed, because behind this impenetrable barrier called klipas timeos, we access it by revealing the godliness in us that seemingly can't be accessed. So when we uncover our yechida, our godliness that cannot be accessed, we pull out the nitzutzos in the goyim. We pull out the nitzutzos in these people, and they can access their godliness that seemingly they can't access. That's one reason we want to reveal the Yechida. And the other reason is because it's the strongest force we have. And to do this avodah, you have to be strong. You have to be determined. You have to be focused. Because otherwise, it's like, oh my gosh, what am I going in this direction for? Mila, I'll speak to a guy. I'll talk about Sheva Mitzvahs. If they're nice and warm and receptive, as I find most of them to be, wonderful. And if they're not, have a nice day. Move on. Who cares? So you're going to someone who's not receptive, who's not a fan, who's not going to tell you how wonderful and they're so proud of Israel and they support Israel. No, not talking about that person. I'm talking about the other. And you're going to change them? Why am I even going in that road? That's an impossible road. That's so hard. And the Rebbe says, yeah, you need to be really tough. You need to be really strong. And that's where you're going to access your Yechida, because nothing is going to give you as much strength as your Yechida. So both because of the, if you will, Mida Keneged Mida, I reveal what cannot be revealed in me, and the guy, it will be revealed in him what can't be revealed in him. And from the absolute strength the Yechid is giving me, that I could walk this hard road, that's what I need to do to cause the menage to shift. Want to turn him over? I got to reveal my Yechida.
What does it mean in my life for me to reveal my Yechida? What is it? What's it betachlis?
So that's a wonderful question. The Rebbe, I cannot claim I finished learning the Mimer. I didn't. So as I said, so we might find out more. I am a little bit ahead of where we are, and I didn't see it yet. What I think it means, as far as I know, but again, maybe the Rebbe will tell us more, so I hope we'll get more clarity. But I would just say, from what I know so far in Chassidus, the idea of revealing the Yechida is a few things. One thing of revealing the Yechida is the Yechida is the power of our tainug in Elokus. Nefesh is Maisa, Ruach is Mida, Neshama is Seichel, Chaya is Ratzon, and the highest force is Tainug. Your pleasure in it, Meaning not your, I got to do this, he's God, I've got to listen, or even your love for Hashem that's compelling you to listen, or your fear of Hashem that's compelling you to listen. Literally focusing on the tainug you feel in avodas Hashem. And like pulling out of yourself that sense of the tainug. And you could say, well, actually, a lot of it's not such a tainug. Okay, so start with the easy stuff. Start with the stuff that you feel more is a tainug. And that tainug and avodas Hashem, that's your Yechida shine. That's one answer. I'm just thinking of all the different things Chassidus says about Yechida. That's a great question. We want to make this real. We want to turn over those menagdim. How do we do it? The other thing that Chassidus would say in terms of what is your Yechida would be what we call that pintla yid, that core belief in Hashem, which goes back to what the Rebbe was saying in the previous ice about being in an asayon, right? I never actually finished that thought. But when we're in an asayon, we said, well, your seichel doesn't work. If your seichel works, it's not an asayon. I mean, what's an asayon? I know what I have to do. Go do it. So an asayon means no, my seichel is inoperative. It doesn't make sense to me. And I do it anyway. Why? Because of a core belief in Hashem that overwhelms my seichel. Now, that might sound like, wow, that's really high words, and how does that apply? But I can think of a lot of situations in my life where I would say it applies, If you would say, I don't know, I guess I'd say putting it in my world, it would be like, if I know the Rebbe wants me to give a class, and I'm like, oh my gosh, no one's going to come. No one's interested. I have no time. A class means I have to prepare it, I have to give it, I have to upload it afterwards. It's hours of work. For what? For whom? Why? No, but there's an imperative. You're supposed to do it. So rationally, it makes no sense in my brain. But do it anyway. So I'm just giving like so to speak an example from my world. I mean, obviously I could give more details, but then how much do I want to talk about myself here? But I think we all have pieces where like we could say this makes no sense, but I know it's what Hashem wants from me.
זה כאילו להתחבר לרצון.
לא, זה לא רצון, להתחבר לנקודה שזה למעלה מן הטעם בדעת לגמרי. כאן לא. אבל הקדוש ברוך הוא אומר
כן. מתחבר לרצון של הקדוש ברוך הוא מעל השכל
So that concept, what I just now explained to Nechami, is really a fusion of two ideas of Yechida, but they really obviously go hand in hand, which is why I fuse them. The idea of Yechida as that core emuna, and Yechida as that essence Mesiras Nefesh. You can say, what's my Mesiras Nefesh? Well, what's my Mesiras Nefesh today? Not on the front lines in Israel or somewhere. What's my Mesiras Nefesh? We have Mesiras Nefesh all the time. All the time when we're against a wall and we're saying, no, 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 and we do it anyway because that's what Hashem wants, or we do it anyway because that's what the Rebbe is pushing us to do, or that's the mitzvah of the Rebbe. But I don't want to, but I just do it. That's the Koyach of Yechida, which is really a fusion of the Yechida as, again, like that Pinta Yid core belief fused with Yechida as ultimate expression of Mesiras Nefesh, right? Chassidus says, what's your Nefesh? Your Ratzon. Mesiras HaRatzon. And the Alter Rebbe writes this in Tanya. I'm not like making up all this stuff. That we do Mesiras Nefesh all day long when we give up our Ratzon for Hashem's Ratzon. I don't want to dress like this, but I do anyway. I don't want to, I don't know, let's say a person would say, and why do I have to wear a sheitel? I could wear a tefillin that perfectly covers my hair. No, but the Rebbe says you have to wear a sheitel. But why? Doesn't make any sense to me. My hair is perfectly covered. Sfardim say it's better this way. Why? Because I'm a chassid, and that's what the Rebbe says. So it's like your brain. Now again, I'm not saying for every person that would be a nisayon. Obviously, a nisayon is very case specific. But for a person that opposes that is bothered by that, your seichel is not making sense with it. It doesn't make sense. My hair is covered perfectly. And it's less attractive than a sheitel, And it's covered perfectly. So why do I have to wear the sheitel on my head? Well, that's what the Rebbe wants. That's what the Rebbe is saying. That's the best road. It doesn't make any sense to me. Okay, so you're in an asayon. So how do we pass an asayon? Through the koyach of our yechida. Through the emuna and the Mesiras Nefesh. Giving up our ratzon for the Eibishter's ratzon. Our ratzon here for what the Rebbe is directing to us is the Eibishter's ratzon. So those to me would be the two ways I would understand that we practically express yechida. Tainuk and this emuna Mesiras Nefesh combo in situations where it's higher than our seichel. Maybe the Maimer will tell us something addition. Maybe the Maimer will tell us something different. I'm assuming the Maimer has to somehow get back to the idea of achdus and ahava, because that's how we started. But ad kan, as far as I see now, that would be my answer to the question. The Rebbe says, so here you are. You're doing something so spiritual. Wow, my halo is so shining. I am revealing my yechida. Right, that thing that comes out like Rosh Chodesh, Yom Kippur Ne'ilah, Mesiras Nefesh, and little me, I'm just being such an amazing person. I'm revealing my Yechida. The Rebbe says that's nice, but actually, the impact that Giloy is having on the non-Jew is nicer, is more impactful, is more significant. You're the catalyst. He's the result. He's the outcome, and that outcome is more significant. Why? Excuse me. Why is that better than what I'm doing? So the Rebbe says for two reasons. One reason is because you're the norm. This non-Jew, he's the chiddush. There's always something special about a chiddush, right? Like the whole idea of Sheva Brachos, right? At Sheva Brachos, you always have to have a panim chadashos. You have to have somebody new that wasn't at the wedding or any of the other Sheva Brachos. Why? Chachamim say panim chadashos brings extra simcha. It's extra special. It's extra joyous. A new face. Anything new always has a special attraction. And then it becomes old, and that's why you got to get something else new. So you're a godly being. Your yechid is the most godly level of your soul. Godliness, that's beautiful. The goy is a piece of klipas tmeis. If the nitzutzos of a goy can be extracted, wow, that's a davar chadash. That's exciting. And getting back to our point that we actually started with an hour ago or so, you are godly. He's tachton. That you're revealing your yechid is amazing. But he's transforming the tachton. When the nitzutzos of this non-Jew are extracted, you're making a dir b'sachtainim. The point and purpose of it all. And that's why all your godliness is to get him to shift. His shifting is much more important than all your godliness. And we're going to stop at this point.